Education is key to success. We haven't taught up anything. Each one have to teach one. Must bomb beside the one. We haven't taught us. Each one got to teach one. Let's learn from one another. Let's go.
The first day I walked into my classroom, I was actually quite brokenhearted because there was nothing. My desks were broken, there were no curtains, I had no projector. It wasn't what I was accustomed to. But I thought to myself, hey, let's see how I can change my classroom into a learning environment for the learners.
Hello, I'm Khalil Osiris. Welcome to Each One Teach One. Today we're sharing in the experience of a group of teachers who have made a huge difference in the lives of the learners and the learning environment at Liverpool High School in Actonville. This inspired and inspiring group has discovered the fundamental truth of Madiba's words. Education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world. Samaya and her colleagues really do mean to change the world, one learner at a time.
Samaya and I have become friends in the time that I've been here, so we're really close. She's very bubbly, she's very energetic, she's inspired by everything. She doesn't give up, she fights for the school, she fights for the students, she does everything in her power to make this school better, more whole. She brings kids together, she brings the teachers towards the kids. She's an amazing person, she's incredible.
I came into contact with Madam Mariawa a year ago, to be precise. She was new to our school, and then when she first came to our school, she saw there was a need for change, and not change in a bad way, change in a good way. So then I came into contact with her. It was in a sports period. It wasn't more like a teacher-student, it was more like a connection of change, if I could put it in that way.
She's motivational and she makes me feel like this is not the place I want to be in future. Before I used to come to school because I have to, but I didn't think of my future, I didn't think ahead of it. I didn't think of what's the reason for coming to school. I didn't really think about that, I just came. But then now I know I have a future, I know the reason why I want to come to school, I have goals, and she inspires me to do better. And whenever I go to her class, I feel like, you know what, I'm confident. And no matter what happens, I am gonna succeed in future.
My name is Samaya Wariawa, and I'm a grade 10 and 11 history and English teacher at Liverpool Secondary School. And I got into teaching because, one, I love children, and two, I've always had an affiliation towards counseling. So I felt the best way to reach communities is to get into the school environment. It doesn't matter how old the children are, and it doesn't matter which environment you're teaching in. Children are always going to reach out to adults. And I feel that I have it in me to inspire and to change things. And I'm a go-getter. So for me, teaching is my passion. And the holidays are good too. But just generally, that's why I like my job. I feel that I can make a difference to somebody's life. And if it's one life I change in a class of 20, then so be it. You start with one child at a time. Why would it be in capital letters? To show what?
It's putting more emphasis on the word.
Good. It's putting more emphasis. I lived in London for 8.5 years. I was very privileged. I worked in private schools. I got to meet Barack Obama. It was fantastic. And then I decided to move back to South Africa. And when I was in London, I decided that I wanted to work in a community school in South Africa. So when I did come over, I first worked in Durban for a little while. And then I transferred over to Liverpool Secondary, just to see what challenges and what I can do actually to make a difference here. The first day I walked into my classroom, I was actually quite brokenhearted because there was nothing. My desks were broken, there were no curtains, I had no projector. It wasn't what I was accustomed to. But I thought to myself, hey, let's see how I can change my classroom into a learning environment for the learners. Because I believe a classroom should be the entrance to the world. Not, the children need to feel warmth. They need to feel that when they walk into the classroom, this teacher is going to make a difference to us. So I changed my entire classroom. I put up motivational sayings. So I started bringing newspapers to the classroom. I started bringing magazines. I got a sponsor to put in curtains. I got a sponsor to get me a projector. I have a corner in my classroom called the controversial corner. And I know that the children are receptive to it because we always end up having discussions about the different things that are on the board. And you know, it just so happened that the day that I decided to do my classroom up, I needed to use the ladies' room. And when I stepped into the girls' toilets, I was mortified. I was so shocked that a school could have a toilet in that condition. And I mean, it's your basic human right to be able to use a proper toilet. So I put together a proposal and I sent it out to a company. And the company was quite surprised at the condition of the toilets, and they decided to revamp. And I got lucky because they even gave me pink and purple paint. So the girls were quite happy about it, and it made my day really. Not because I got the toilets done, but because now they could actually go into a little place and there were different colors and it was appealing. And then because of that, I got the boys' toilet done, and I made them cream and blue. So it just makes a difference, you know, like little things. I think it gives children the idea that, hey, if she can do it, perhaps we can. We can look after it. You know, we don't have to break it or be vindictive or malicious about it. There's been lots of things. There's a building on the ground that I'm presently working with, and it is supposed to be a change room for the girls and boys. So at the moment, that's been revamped. Then I got paint for the entire school. And all this is just by asking people, hey guys, I work in the school, can you give me a helping hand? Because my school is special to me, and I believe that every child should be entitled to the basic rights that every child has in private schools, in ex-Model C schools, so why not us? And that's how I got it going. And now the challenges are different. It's more working with individual children and counseling them through things, and it's more personalized. It's not on a general scale.
Sometimes it takes an outsider, as Sumaya was initially, to open our eyes and to inspire the changes we don't even know that we need. Here, the change is creating a nurturing environment and a climate that leads to learning. As Albert Einstein said, I never teach my pupils. I only attempt to provide the conditions in which they can learn. So what other changes have the Liverpool Secondary teachers brought to the learning environment and the learners? We find out after the break.
Let's learn from one another. Let's learn from one another. Let's
A set of questions, just like in any conversation. Answer the questions below in your homework as far as possible to show up. So it's putting more emphasis, so we know exactly what you feel. You feel that is what you take.
We're very privileged to have experienced teachers, especially the matriculants. I think 90% of our teachers are experienced teaching for years and years, you know. So, but you know, we need teachers like Madam Sumaya to motivate us. You see, with other teachers, it's more like giving us education and teaching us. With Madam Sumaya, that's not the case. So the other teachers need to realize that it's not only about education and giving us knowledge. It's more about sitting down with us, discussing with us, knowing how we feel, knowing what we want to do in our life. We know we need encouragement from teachers.
We're normally living in the olden generation days where teachers are just your teachers, and that's it. They're more than that because they play a very integral role in your life. They should also encourage you. They should also not only encourage you in terms of school terms, but in terms of life ahead. Because many teachers nowadays only look at the education side of life. They are not looking at the physical side, the mental side of life, what you'd like to achieve the next days ahead. So I really think that teachers should now really look into the children's lives.
Sumaya is not the only teacher in the school making positive changes. Her colleagues are also helping to create the right environment for children to be their best and live meaningful lives. And that extends to sport as well as academics. Shanita Naidu's proactive approach to team sports got the school back into the game.
4 years ago, there was no sport that was predominantly being played at the school except cricket. And I was driving to school one morning and I heard over the news the Kmotsepe Foundation and how they have this tournament that's been played concerning soccer. And because I'm also a physical educational specialist, I've also got my colors in soccer, and I played for many teams. I entered all the teams. My under 19 in the first year got through to the semi-finals, and for them to get onto a bus alone, besides the fact that they've achieved going through to the semis, some of them have never been on the bus. So because they got onto the bus was excitement enough for them. Unfortunately, we drove to the Sports School of Excellence and we were knocked out by them. But just the exposure to what's really out there is what changed my heart.
I started playing soccer at the age of 14. It wasn't really fun because I played with boys and it really wasn't a thing for girls to play soccer at that time. And when I came to Liverpool, Madam S. Naidu opened a girls team, and it was in my interest that girls can do what you say they can. And from that I got a quote that says, I can because I want to. I want to because I can, and I do it because you said I couldn't.
Where I decided to pursue this because initially when I did my trials and my selections, my main rule was soccer is a sport of discipline, and if there's no discipline, you won't get onto the ground. I had guys that were smoking, I had guys that were drugging, and all of that has changed. So to me, it wasn't about the game. It was more about getting the guys off the streets and onto the ground, giving them something to do. Because many of them would leave school and go and stand on the street corners or go and sit and gamble somewhere. And the 4 teams that I had would stay with me after school till about 5 o'clock sometimes.
An empty stomach cannot concentrate. Teacher Bibi Sidat stepped up to revitalize the school's dormant feeding scheme, because learning requires fuel.
I started here in around 2008. My aim was that I live in the town and I wanted to make a difference at the school. So I came in as a life orientation teacher, and I realized that when you speak to children with respect, you gain respect from them and they open up to you.
Some of the teachers, they do over and beyond the calling of being a teacher. They provide counseling. They impact the school in a way that kids are more happy to be here.
And as years went along, I found that there was a need where children were not coming with lunch to school. But there were other teachers that had started the feeding scheme and have left. And then about 2 years ago, I decided to get onto that feeding scheme. And knowing a lot of people, and I'm a person that I am who speaks a lot, I managed to get many people to give me donations. I spoke to the children. They would bring in a rand a day, or somehow we'd get money. I'd speak to them to speak to their parents if they would want to donate something. And we are now running the feeding scheme with approximately 35 children.
They make kids enjoy school. They make them want to be here. We don't have kids that are running away from the school. They want to come to school, come to these lessons and participate.
It costs me about 100 rand a day, where I buy 4 loaves of bread and we get fillings. There's a church from Benoni that sponsors us Checkers Shoppers voucher. I use that to buy the tin foods and stuff, but every day out of my personal time, my own petrol, I go and buy the bread every day. On a Sunday evening, my daughter and I make 35 sandwiches for the children. I've now taken in the 2 janitors, female janitors who help me. I bring the bread and the filling, and they make it for me at school. And I just oversee what's happening there. But the children are happy, They are getting a sandwich every day, and we give them juice in summer. Winter is starting now. We'll start giving them tea or coffee.
Education's purpose is to replace an empty mind with an open one, and in some situations, replace an empty belly with a full one. Teachers who make room for the daily challenges of their learners' lives, they are the ones who create an environment that builds balanced human beings.
Let's learn from one another. Let's learn from one another.
Welcome back. Teachers can make all the difference as to how and what a child learns, and the Liverpool Secondary teachers in Actonville have created a safe, encouraging, and exciting learning environment that we can all take lessons from. Well, Sumaya and Shanita, we're finally at this intervention stage. I'd like you to tell me first, what is it that you feel you've done differently as a teacher that's been so impactful?
I think it's just my everyday approach to learners. I feel I'm very open to them. I have an open door policy in my classroom as well, where any learner can come in at any time, and they can speak to me about anything, not only school-related issues. They can bring their problems from home, and they know they can trust me with it. Unless I feel that severe outside intervention is needed, then I will take it to the next level. But I just feel that if teachers have a more open and honest and loving approach, then children will be responsive to them. Because at the end of the day, to win over any individual, you would use love. It's the most honest way of getting somebody to, turn to you.
For you, what has it been?
The most important thing to remember is that this is a high school. You need to come down to the level of the learners, and you need to be able to communicate with them on the same level. And as a mother, coming from home, I have my kids to see to, and when I get into the classroom, those are still my kids. So I don't differentiate that because I'm not your biological mother, I don't need to take the extra step to say that, it's not my problem, I don't need to deal with it. I respect them, they respect me. And being at this very versatile age that they are, it's not easy for them to talk to their parents.
I find that as well. Teenagers especially.
Yes.
They would choose the neutral stranger almost.
Yes.
As opposed to going into their parents' room and say, listen, I have a boyfriend, he's cheating on me, can you help?
Yes.
Because a parent will just climb down on them. I suppose we are more practical.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, let's sit down, let's talk about it. How are you feeling? Why did he do it? Just general questions.
Well, let me ask you something. We talk with teachers all over the country, and one of the number one points of pushback from teachers is that they're not being paid to do all of that. They're overworked, they're underpaid, it's not in their job description. Some of the teachers say, and I can understand this, that there are children that come into their class who simply don't want to learn. What do you say to the teacher who feels it's not in her or his job description?
I have quite a hard approach to that, because I feel that if you enter into the world of teaching, you automatically aligning yourself with teenagers, with children, with infants, depending on the age group that you teach. And if you have to turn around and say, it's not in my job description, then what exactly are you there for? Because teaching's not only just the academic part. In order to produce the academic results, you have to nurture these children, you have to love them, you have to get into their psyche. You gotta understand where they're coming from. That's my personal approach.
Just in summary, I think I'll just have one of you speak to teachers and the other speak to parents, or the combination thereof. But in closing, I'd like you to share a statement to teachers that you'd like them to know, something you'd like them to know about reaching the difficult learner. We'll start with you, Sumaya.
Thanks. When I moved from London to South Africa, it was real culture shock for me, because I came back after 8.5 years and I was actually startled. And then I threw myself into Liverpool, which was even more shocking to my system, personally as an individual. But then I kind of weighed out the situation and I'm like, is it really the learners or is it the teachers? And when I looked, I mean, I may get slated for this, but when I look at South Africa as a whole, I do believe that teachers need to change their attitudes towards learners, because our education system is good. The textbooks are good. They are talented teachers. They just need to pull on their talents.
I think the problem starts at home, where with the parents themselves, they try to replace that love with technology.
I agree.
I think that, you know, if you remove the technology, take away the cell phone, take away the computer, take away the games, what's left? Nothing but communication. That's how we grew up.
Yes, that's how we grew up.
We didn't have cell phones.
Absolutely.
We didn't have computer games. We had to be out playing in the street. Come home, you're not going to sit around dinner table and just look at each other.
Yeah.
Conversation is going to start. That's that alone will contribute to the communication gap. And I feel that, especially in today's society, there's a huge gap between parents and learners.
Excellent point.
Absolutely.
And I think that, to me, is really where all of this comes together. We're not just talking about teachers. We're not just talking about learners.
It's a combination.
We're also talking about parents.
Yes.
And I think one of the things for me that really, really speaks to the work that you're doing is that you're giving a message of hope.
Yes.
That's important.
You're giving a message of hope that speaks to people's humanity.
Yes.
And we at Each One Teach One, we also speak a message of hope.
Definitely.
What I'd like to do is you two teachers, for us with Each One Teach One, symbolize what the best of teaching and parenting represents. And this light, this solar candle, is a symbol of hope for us. We say in parting words at every show, stay in the light. In this case, we're going to say, and continue the hope.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
So we'd like you, as two teachers, to share this as a symbol
Thank you.
that represents the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
This is
love and discipline, commitment and respect, communication, and again, more love. These teachers have shown us how. So for all you parents and teachers out there, instill a love of education early on, and your child will have a great life. Education starts early. The thirst to learn more and more about the world is a great thing when you're a child. Make sure that you nurture the thirst and give your child or learners the desire to know as much as possible about the world. In the words of the late and great B.B. King, a blues singer from America, the beautiful thing about learning is that no one else can take it away from you. I'm Khalil Osiris, and until we meet again next week, this is Each One Teach One. Stay in the light.